Here is the ticket for SIG test problem number 4 to receive your 4th attempt complete this entire ditto. Let me do a few of them with you to see if we can jog your memory. Alright, so on this first one here, always take a look at the directions. Find the measure of angle CAR. Now C is here and A is in the middle and R is there. So ultimately we are looking for that big angle right there. That's going to be our answer. But on all of these problems, you'll notice you need to find x in order to answer some of these questions. So finding x is the crucial part. So we've got this 90-degree box in here. We got a right angle, so that's going to be useful to us later. Now, what you'll notice is that box, which lies on this straight line, tells us that this is 90 degrees, which means the other side of this line here that heads to T is also 90 degrees. Which means this 23 and this 7x plus 4 has to add to 90 degrees, and that's what we're going to use to solve for x. So 7x plus 4 plus that 23 must equal 90 degrees. Since that's an equation that just has x in it, we can solve for that fairly quickly. I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms first here, because that's what you should do. Then subtract 27 from both sides, and 90 will turn into 63. And a quick little division there, and you get x equals 9. So we know what x is. X is 9, which is a great thing, because if we go back to what we're trying to find here, I see this 6x sitting here. We haven't used it yet, and we're going to use it right now, because if I plug my 9 right into there, 6 times 9 is 54. What I have just found is from here to here, from those two rays, if you will, and I know that that's 54, 6 times 9. If I could just figure out this chunk right here and add it to that 54, I would have the measure of angle CAR. Now this angle here is vertical to the 7x plus 4. If you notice, I've got a line going straight up and down here, and this line that goes right there. And these two angles are opposite one another, called vertical angles, which means they are equal to each other, congruent. So 7x plus 4, you could technically write right there. They're the same. So we're going to use that 7x plus 4 and the fact that x equals 9 to solve for this smaller angle here. 7 times 9 is 63, and 63 plus 4 is 67. So now I have these two angles, and we're just going to add them together. 67 plus the 54 gives you 121. So the measure of angle CAR, C-A-R, is 121 degrees. All right, let's slide over here to B. Now, it's important to notice on some of these, if you can spot a triangle, knowing that the sum of the angles of a triangle, the three angles, add to 180 is crucial. I see a 90-degree box here, purposely put off to the side to see if you forget that it is actually all of these corners here were 90s. And as soon as we put that box there in that corner, now we've got one more angle of this triangle, which is helpful. Here's that vertical angles we just talked about on the previous problem, which means you could actually write 3x plus 19 in this spot here. They are equal to each other or congruent. So I've got a triangle and I've got three angles, and I know that the three angles of that triangle add to 180. So if I write that out, 3x plus 19 plus 2x plus 11 plus that 90-degree angle in the corner has to equal 180 degrees. Let's go ahead and combine like terms first and solve this thing for x. I see 5 x's. 19 and 11 is 30, plus that 90 is 120. Move the 120 to the other side by subtracting it, and dividing by 5 is the last step, and we get x is equal to 12. Now be careful, don't box that as your answer, because we do have to check to make sure that we've solved the question. Find the measure of angle HKI. So I start at H, I slide to K, I go to I. We're talking about this angle right out here. That's what this question is asking you to find. And hopefully you notice this. this angle that you're trying to find and this angle here, 3x plus 19, lie on a straight line. And if they lie on a straight line, they add to 180 degrees. Which means if you took your 12 and you put it right here for this x, you could solve for this smaller angle. If we do that right now, 3 times 12 is 36. 36 plus 19 is 55. 36 plus 19, double checking, 55. So this smaller angle right here is 55. The angle you're trying to find, which I'll call W, plus 55 has to equal 180. So the angle I'm trying to find is W, subtract 55, and you get 125. And that's what you're trying to find. We'll go back and use the name we're supposed to use. Angle HKI equals 125. Let's go ahead and do one more. Looks like we have time. Let's do C. Find the measure of angle PET. Where is PET? P to E to T. So we're going to end up trying to find this angle down here in this corner here. So I see several triangles here, and that's important to recognize. And we're going to try to figure out which one's going to help us solve for x. So I've got an angle here, an angle here. I got nothing in this corner, and that's bad. I got nothing and nothing and nothing, so that one's not helpful. And I've got that angle and a blank one. However, this blank angle is a vertical to the 6x plus 10, so I'm going to rewrite it there. So now I see a small triangle up here where I have 3 angles, and we know that 3 angles of a triangle add to 180. So if I add all these up and I save space and combine like terms in my head, I have 6 x's, and instead of writing plus 10, plus 15, plus 35, let's go ahead and jam those together in our head and write plus 60 equals 180 degrees. Subtract the 60 gives me 120, and solving for x looks like 20. So now we know that x is 20, which is helpful. Remember, we're trying to find this guy right here. I've got this box in the corner, and that's kind of helpful. If I knew this angle right here where I'm placing this dot, I know that the angle we're trying to find is 90 degrees minus that dot. Well, now that I know what x is, I know that this angle right here is 2 times 20, otherwise known as 40. I know that this angle right here, well, now that I know x is 20, is 120 plus 10, or 130. And now I have 2 angles of a triangle. 130 plus 40 is 170. And since that third angle right there has to make the triangle add up to 180, well, this is just a quick little math figuring out that that's 10. Huh? 10 plus 170 gives you the 180. And now that you have that 10, you know what this angle's got to be, because these 2 angles add to 90 degrees. So angle PET is equal to 80 degrees. 80 plus 10 is that 90. All right. All right, good luck on the last 3 there. Bring this in completed to earn your 4th attempt on SIG test problem number 4. Good luck.